I've got the solution to decide where the British and Irish Lions should tour next and in future. And it is a solution that is so obvious to me that obviously it'll never happen because that's not how rugby works. But I would love to know what you think about this, because this conversation is not going away. There's been a lot of people questioning in the last year or two whether Australia... Well, firstly, people were questioning whether Australia should be hosting the Lions series at all. And actually, Joe Schmidt's done a brilliant job in turning things around from the debacle of Eddie Jones. And now I actually think, for what it's worth, it's going to be a really competitive series, and Australia have got their mojo back and could do a job, genuinely. But the further question is, should Australia, or any country for that matter, have a divine right to host the British and Irish Lions? And is it the right thing for the sport, which ultimately sport should be based on merit, right? Tradition is important, but it should be based on merit. And is it wrong that we're shutting the door on Argentina or France or whatever the case may be? Now, before I get into what my idea is, I will just say, in my mind, I've got a little bit of a distinction that I draw between Australia and the other two countries that traditionally host Lions tours, South Africa and New Zealand. Because when I use that word traditionally, that does apply to South Africa and New Zealand, who have been visited by the Lions for a long time, many times. Over the 150-odd year history of the Lions, those countries have been visited a lot, whereas Australia on that cycle with South Africa and New Zealand is relatively recent. 1989 is when it became a 12-year cycle. And so we've had the Australia series in 89, 01, 13, and now 25. So I'm more sympathetic to keeping South Africa and New Zealand as fixtures, but I definitely think Australia don't deserve it by right. But I would change it up completely, and here's what I would do. First rule, if you have hosted either of the last two British and Irish Lions tours, you cannot host the next one. Fine. After that, it should be based on world ranking after a World Cup cycle. So, of the eligible nations, whichever has the highest World Cup ranking after the 2027 World Cup should host the next Lions tour. Let me take you through that. It's actually, I've got to give credit, it's a mate of mine, Hugo, who suggested this, and he sent me a little message on WhatsApp. And ever since I read it, I was like, that's so obvious. How has no one thought about that? So maybe they will. But here's how it goes. This is the world rankings at the moment. I'm just, for the sake of argument, going to use the current world rankings to illustrate my idea. So currently South Africa number 1, New Zealand 2, France in 4, Argentina 5, Australia in 8. Is that? Yeah, 8. So those are like the eligible teams to host the Lions. So remember rule number 1, if you've hosted either of the last two Lions series, you cannot host the next one, meaning that the most you get it is every 12 years. That takes out Australia, the current hosts, and it takes out South Africa, hosts in 2021. And if these were the world rankings, obviously you've got to take out Ireland, England, Scotland, because they make up the British and Irish Lions. Out of the eligible teams, if this was the world ranking after the 2027 World Cup in Australia, New Zealand get the 29 tour, as they are planned to currently anyway. Then, if we move on to the next Lions tour, remember that if you've hosted either of the last two Lions tours, you can't get the next one. So New Zealand and Australia would be out. And the countries that are left, if South Africa are the highest ranked, South Africa get the 2023 tour, which they are due to get anyway. But look ahead one more. 2037. South Africa and New Zealand have hosted the last two. We get to the 2035 Rugby World Cup. Who knows where that's going to be held? Probably Saudi Arabia. That would be my guess. You can come back and mention this video in a decade if I'm right on that. But there you go. Now Australia, ranked number 8, would not, on merit, get a British and Irish Lions tour, and France would. Now, a couple of things to talk about. Firstly, I'm sympathetic as well to the argument that France wouldn't be the perfect destination for a Lions tour. I mean, from a rugby perspective, with clubs like Toulouse and Bordeaux and La Rochelle, it would be absolutely amazing midweek games, and you could play against Italy as well and Spain or whatever the case may be, and then your test matches against France would be dynamite. It will be mega hot in July, August in France. In some parts as well, it'd be unbearable. But I suppose you could play the games at night. That would be all right. I mean, I'm up for it. But what it also means is if Argentina managed to get above France in the world rankings, they get it. It means even let me go back to the 2033 series, or in fact, the next one. Go back to the one where I said New Zealand get it. If over the next 2 years, France managed to go above New Zealand in the world rankings, France get it. And New Zealand would have to be in the hat with South Africa for the next one and battling it out. So as I've said, I am sympathetic to keeping South Africa and New Zealand on the rotation. I'm also sympathetic to France as a Northern Hemisphere team not being one that get a full tour. But actually, no, I'm going to take that back. I think a tour to France would be absolutely amazing if they earned it on merit. I think generally speaking, what it would mean is, well, and also it would just be a carrot dangling there for Argentina. Argentina have been at World Cup semi-final after World Cup semi-final. They beat the British and Irish Lions last week, albeit a warm-up game, whatever, not a proper test match. And you could argue maybe Argentina can't sustain a full Lions tour. They don't have professional teams, so how would they do midweek games? There are ways around it. You could play Chile or Uruguay, or I don't know, USA could come and visit. Who knows how it would work? But the option would be there. And we'll have to sort of review this a bit after the actual whole Lions series in Australia pans out, because if Australia go and win 3-0, then, well, maybe there's bigger questions to talk about with the Lions besides who they play. But we'll take a view on it when the whole tour is done. But I just think the principle of it being open to other countries is the right one to do. Sport is based on merit at the end of the day, isn't it? You know, we dish out a Rugby World Cup to the best team in the world who earn it out on the field. Maybe a Lions tour should be one that you earn out on the field, not just be tied to it because it's just been that way for the last 40 years or whatever it is. So that's how I would change it. I think it's really, really simple. Like I say, so simple, I doubt it will get done. And, well, I'll tell you one thing it would do as well. Let me just finish with this. So there's been, again, New Zealanders kicking up a stink that France are sending a development team down to New Zealand because their top 14 tournament has only just finished. I don't know what they would expect to happen until the top 14 gets sorted out scheduling-wise, which, I don't know, who knows when that will happen. Then I don't think you're going to get France sending strong teams. However, one of the incentives that might actually make France pull their finger out and sort the top 14 scheduling out is saying to them, you might get a Lions tour, which would be a serious incentive. And I tell you what, when you look at have a look at the world rankings again, France are not that far off New Zealand. Suddenly, the games in New Zealand this month would carry far more significance because France, if they were to beat New Zealand, could go above New Zealand. I know there's a long way to go till the World Cup, but all these games would count that little bit more. They would matter that little bit more. There would be that extra little carrot dangling for countries like Argentina and France and Italy even. So in 2025, it just feels like the right move for rugby. We'll wait and see whether anything like that will actually happen. But in the meantime, tell me what you think. Am I completely mad, or is there merit to this idea? Do you have a different solution? And if so, let me know down below. I'll be there with you.